Welcome to the In Between podcast. I am so excited for today's guest. We have Rhiannon Andersen. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. Rhiannon is the co-founder and the chief marketing officer of Steelhead Productions, a Las Vegas-based company specializing in custom trade show exhibits. She has helped grow Steelhead by over 600% while leading the company towards sustainability and B Corp certification. Beyond her work at Steelhead, Rhiannon is the founder of Give Happy, a nonprofit dedicated to spreading kindness and generosity in the community. She's passionate about building strong company culture, advancing sustainability, and creating meaningful impact in both the business and beyond. I'm so excited you're here. Thank you for joining me and also advocating to be in person because this is so fun.
Yeah, I love it.
I love it.
And it's nice to see you again. And I think in person is so important.
It is. It is.
When
for
we can, we
connection,
should.
all the things. I want to know, first question of this interview, the word happy. It comes up a lot, even when you Google you. And I was doing research.
Really? Oh
you're just
gosh,
naturally associated with the word happy, both in your company, your nonprofit, and you're generally, like, you just radiate happiness. What does the word, the emotion happy mean to you?
Sure. So in the context of Steelhead in particular, so we have like 3 brand promises. And the culmination of the brand promises equals our tagline. And our tagline is exhibit happy. And so that will show up both in like what we do professionally, exhibiting, because we design and build trade show exhibits, obviously. So exhibiting happy, so making sure that our clients are satisfied, but then also just showing up with joy in your life. And I've lived a difficult life, and so I have consciously had to pick the path of happiness and choosing to be happy. A lot of my upbringing and trials and tribulations, I could have so easily been excused into not being a joyful human. And then in reference to the Give Happy Foundation, which is it's a spin-off of our company Steelhead. Essentially, it was our internal philanthropic driver to give happy, and it really just picked up so much of its own momentum that we decided to turn it into a 501c3 in 2023. So that has been in existence for a few years now, with the primary goal of inspiring for-profit business owners to give more.
Yeah, I love that.
Thanks.
I love how you have tied it in to everything that you do. Yeah. And I know you mentioned like life has not been easy. Yeah. And how have you maintained the sense of joy and happiness in your personal life and in your business, being a leader through all the trials and tribulations?
It's a choice point. Really when we're faced with, and that's not to say emoting emotion or feeling emotion and giving voice and energy to processing emotion is not important to me, because I think I don't want to bypass the hard stuff. It's choosing, though, once I've done the work to address it, to get back on the path of joy and happiness and optimism and positivity. And I think you do that enough times, it kind of just becomes who you are. And now, I just turned 49, and it's kind of wired into my neurology. It really is who I am and how I am personally and professionally.
Were you naturally like that when you were a child?
I wouldn't say so.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, I'm not, I feel like I'm starting, I just turned 30 and I'm starting to consciously make those choices. Right. But I think in this culture, it's almost like celebrated a little bit to be the victim, right? It's like we're taught to not have that positive outlet or not choose different. We're taught to kind of stay in that victim and that we'll be given things or handed it. And but it's such a disservice to the mindset.
It is really, and also to the collective, because I think, and thank you so much for recognizing that I bring joy where I go and saying so, but that's what the world needs. It needs joyful, happy, healed, positive people. And one of our values at Steelhead is optimism. And we believe that like positivity and optimistic way of being, it really is quite contagious. It's hard to be in a shitty mood around a happy human.
It really is. Yeah. It really is. It's interesting though, because I feel like there's also a little bit of the culture right now talking mental health side, I guess, about the toxic positivity. Right. And I love what you said about being happy and choosing joy doesn't discredit that you've done the work
Correct.
for the things that needed to
Yeah.
be worked on.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you ensure that you're doing that work? Like, what does that look like on a personal and business level?
Mm-hmm. Really, I think our emotions or things that trigger us, they, for me, feel like an opportunity to dig a little bit deeper. Like, well, why did that bother me? Why am I feeling tight in my body? Why did this piss me off? And it's really an invitation just to kind of take a look and see what's really going on and do the work, get into that healing. I just don't want to live with that below the surface unaddressed. And so, of course, like I'm human and things make me mad and I get frustrated or upset personally and professionally. And when it happens, I've really been working, and this work probably started in my kind of like maybe mid 30s, like just to pause and give myself a minute to not jump into, no, I'm okay, it's okay, brush it off, or carry that attitude forward. Just take a minute and, like, well, what's happening and how can I get back to zero, or how can I get back to like a neutral place with the person or the situation, so then I can genuinely move forward like with good energy.
Yeah, I feel like that evolution is so important because, I mean, obviously, until you're like 25, 30, your brain isn't even fully developed.
No,
so
yeah.
you have to have that time where you are resentful or you're experiencing these emotions and they're loud and you don't really know what to do with them. But then there's this beautiful evolution, and I feel like I'm in the middle of experiencing it right now where it's like, oh, I actually have a choice in this. I actually have a say in how I interact with this client that's pissing me off, or what I say next to my boyfriend. Like, all of those things are little tiny choices that I think go back down to what your values are, what you're trying to put out into the world.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, I think for as much work as we put in to putting the tools in our backpack, life can toss something our way, and it really does reveal that there are unhealed parts of us that need a little bit more attention. The world's going through a lot of stuff right now, and I think all of us are, it feels like my crew, the people who I surround myself with, we're all just in a pause point and not saying a whole lot because we're doing like an internal evaluation check to kind of see, like, okay, where are we at? How do we feel? Yeah. What do we say? How do we support each other?
And sometimes that's the wisest way to go about it. It's not to say anything at all and just absorb and then decide.
Yeah.
How you feel
Oprah, I have heard that she said somewhere, when you're just not sure, don't do anything. Like, give yourself a minute. Yeah. And which is an important part of the process.
I love
that pause. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about your life evolution, because I got an inside look. I listened to a podcast that actually Lisa Chastain did with you.
Yeah.
And she really dives deep into all your different, you're literally from the day you were born, which I loved, because from someone who is now interviewing you, I'm like, now I know all the information. Yeah. But you have such an incredible story before Steelhead, and having a passion not only for social work, but you were even a foster mom several times. And I would love for you to speak, like, where does that passion come from? I mean, you have such a passion, I would say, from my perspective, for humans and just giving your heart and what your knowledge is to those who need it most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Such a big question. Yeah. So, you know, coming from a childhood that really was riddled with some trauma, and I want to pay homage to, you know, my history. I also don't live from the place of being a victim. So I am who I am because of all of the things that I have gone through, and I really like who I am. So I'll just preface with saying that. But coming from that place, I think as I turned into a young adult, I wanted to live open-heartedly and wear my heart on my sleeve and give back to those going through hard things, especially youth, because I felt really isolated and alienated. I don't think that happened very consciously, but when I look back now, like almost 50, oh, that's very clear, right? So my volunteerism, like when I was in college, I volunteered at youth shelters. And then as I was picking my educational path, I just kind of naturally leaned over into social work and sociology. And so that was my first career was working for the state of Washington. And I would help foster families that were dealing with child abuse or child neglect and this is interesting because it does happen inside foster families as well. So it was really like a high risk environment. My goal was to make sure that those youth that were placed in these homes were living in as healthy of environment as we can find for them or cultivate for them. That was very heavy. And after about 5 years of doing that professionally, I needed to take a breath. And then that's when my career path shifted into Steelhead.
That's so beautiful.
Thanks.
And I think it's so important that you recognize that you needed that break. Because that's hard work on your soul.
Hard. Yeah. And really, as someone who, back then, I don't think that career path, in my experience, we weren't taught to have good boundaries. So I was giving it like my full gusto. And I probably would have had a bit more longevity with that being my path if I would have known to have a bit of restraint. It just wasn't meant to be my narrative. Yeah. And then so Steelhead, I don't know if you picked up on, but I'm a second generation business owner. So it was actually my dad's company. And I went to him like, I just need a job. I need some help. I need a little bit of money where I just reevaluate what I'm doing and how and who I'm doing it for. And little would I have ever thought that I would be at the helm of such an amazing organization, having worked side by side with my business partner to just grow it into what it is today.
That is incredible. Is what Steelhead is today, is it a mix of like what you brought in, what everyone brought in, or is it still like what your dad envisioned?
It's definitely a mashup.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're really proud of the way that it's like mashed up. So my dad's original philosophy was really quite beautiful and really lent into the sustainability aspect of our business. So thankfully, and thanks for pointing it out, but we are one of the only B Corp certified event producers in North America. We also just recently received our EcoVadis certification, which is another certification that's really a sustainability certification that's really important to corporate America. But my dad's original model was to create something and then rent it to other people. So it was part of this kind of like reuse cycle. And we've doubled down on that way of helping companies market at events. We build really cool shit, we let a lot of people use it, and we make sure that it feels new to them every single time. So that original idea was my father's, and we've maintained that. How we work as an organization, the amount of process, procedure, how big we are, the number of people, how much we pour back into the community, those are things my business partner and I have integrated into the business. Yeah.
Did you take anything specifically that you learned from your days in social work and implemented it to now be at Steelhead?
Yeah. So our entire Give Happy philosophy was my contribution. I wanted to continue to support nonprofits. And what better way to do that than to take a high functioning for-profit company and ask of it to give back. And, I believe in karma. And so as we were receiving and we were growing, we were equally giving back to the community, all of the communities. We give back globally, but we really kind of focus in the Las Vegas area. Yeah, so that was integrated. And my business partners, so thankfully, they were like, hell yeah, let's do it. And so instead of having, Rhiannon be this champion for good, now I have 97 employees who are all, foot soldiers for great work that we do professionally, but then we also give them the opportunity to give back through their contribution at Steelhead.
Yeah. I think that's such a crucial part of business, is giving back, is taking all the positivity and income that you've created and giving it to those who need it most in order for their dreams to flourish. What is your perspective on businesses and really having, obviously you don't necessarily need to have a nonprofit attached like you guys do, but why do you feel it's so crucial as part of a business to be giving back?
It's really multifaceted. And so one, I think just the compound effect. Like I said, I, as a single employee, could go and volunteer. But if I can rally my coworkers and get our company to sponsor 2 hours of volunteer time, okay, so that's Rhiannon times almost 100 people, right? So that's a lot of hours of volunteer time. Or even if we ask every one of our employees, hey, we'll do a matching program. So we take whatever resources that they feel comfortable making as a donation to a foundation or a nonprofit, and then we match it. It has a real awesome compound effect. Now, if Steelhead can influence other companies to do the exact same thing, the impacts are grand. And that's the work of the Give Happy Foundation, because it's separate from what Steelhead does professionally. But if with this belief and with this proof point in Steelhead that it can be this really awesome opportunity to have great impact, and we can inspire other companies to do it, I think that's super magical. Secondly, our employees love being given the opportunity to get involved with cool projects that create change, great positive change in the world. Like, they love it. They love that we support it. They love that they get the opportunity to do it, and they're getting to do it during work hours. Most of the time, sometimes we're like, go clean up a hiking path, and it's like on a Saturday morning or something, but yeah, it's awesome. And
I'm sure it gives them purpose too.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's purpose just bigger than what the great work they're doing for Steelhead, the company. So they get to do some great volunteerism and have that be championed and supported by like their coworkers and their bosses. And so it just really creates an awesome culture at Steelhead.
And that also kind of pings back to you guys and helps your culture and your community as a whole at work. I'm so excited to talk about your culture, because this is something that I asked you when we first met, because we were kind of chatting and you had just won an award, I think, for your company culture. Is that kind of?
Yeah, we've won many.
And
like
so
humbly. But yeah, we are one of Nevada's best places to work, 5 years running. We're really proud of that, because that means me, Rhiannon, the owner, I didn't vote us in to being the best place to work. Yeah. Like, our employees were surveyed. And amongst a lot of other great businesses in this community. And for 5 years, we've created an environment at Steelhead that people feel super happy to be a part of. And they have won us the award with their voice, We also, in 2022, we won Inc. magazine, top 500 places to work in America.
Wow.
And that was really huge, I remember when we received the announcement, like, I got emotional. I was like at Trader Joe's or something. I'm like, oh, this is so awesome. And simultaneously, like, doing great work for our clients, like growing, being an Inc. magazine top 5,000 fastest growing companies in America, and being Nevada's best place to work and one of America's best place to work. It's like hitting on both cylinders, and it's proving you can be a big business and be an awesome employer and an awesome community member. Yeah, so it really like hit,
I was amazed when you were telling me that, because I'm obviously a business owner, but everything I hear about corporate is all my friends hate it, and so
there's a lot not to like.
Of course, but to then hear a different way of doing things, right? That's the key, is like, I assume your staff is working what it would be sometimes a 9 to 5, right? Yeah. They're still doing all those things, but they love it. And so, one, how? And two, like, what do you think, what are you doing that's different than the people not winning those awards?
Well, it's not just what we do. This is part of Steelhead's like credo. So it's like a mantra inside our business. It's not just what we do, it's how we do it. And they matter equally. So yeah, we do really serious work. Like, we are in charge of humongous projects for really big brands. They're spending a lot of money. We believe that we can do serious work and still have fun. Now, those sometimes can't happen simultaneously. Like, you gotta put your head down and like get the proposal written. But when we get the opportunity to take a breather, we take great breathers together, and we celebrate, and we just integrate good times like everywhere we can. And it's important, and it does cost. I mean, there is a monetary ramification, but for luckily, like me and my business partner, we want to work in an environment that feels great. Like we want to walk in and we want to feel good too. And so we invest in it.
Yeah, I love that. What are some celebrations and fun things that you guys do?
Yeah. So one of my favorite things, we every month a department volunteers to host a party for everybody else in the company.
Oh my gosh.
And they get a budget for like food and drinks and theme and games. And it's been wild. We have had a survivor challenge where people were like eating bugs and doing like all these like crazy activities. I mean, we've had cookies and milk bar. We've had, yeah, I mean, it's spanned the whole gamut. You know, we've had like Valentine's Day like pop-ups. And so they're really fun and they're in the afternoon for like a couple hours. And it gives everybody in the company the opportunity to non-transactionally interface with each other. So it's not about this project. It's about, hey, just how are you? And we have a big facility. You know, we have like 130,000 square feet. So it's pretty huge. There are days that go by where people don't see one another because we have the admin side and we have operations and we have warehousing. So people are segmented into their kind of respectful departments. And so these pop-ups bring everybody together on the reg. So it's, yeah, they happen once a month.
That's so fun. I want to work there just for one of those parties. Like, what a great way to take the pressure off from a high level of like, we're in this building, we're hanging out, but we're not going to be discussing all these different logistics.
Yeah, just enjoy.
Are going on all the time.
Yeah.
Besides these events, besides obviously the community aspect, especially from a leader perspective, how are you investing in your employees on a daily basis?
Yeah. So again, you know, we recognize that we have like people's livelihoods like in our hands, and people spend more of their waking time, just humans kind of in general, spend the majority of their waking time at work. Because you think you have a 24-hour day, maybe you spend hopefully like a good amount of that sleeping, like 9 hours, right? 8 or 9 hours. I know I don't always get that or ever. But, and then you spend the next big slice of the pie, 8 hours, you're at, probably at minimum, you know, you're spending at work. So that's 3/4 of your day right there. So you're spending more time with your coworkers than you are with your boyfriend, your husband, your family, your kids, like people who you like consciously pick to be in your life. So we take that very seriously. And, you know, we do quite a bit actually. Like we have an unlimited vacation policy. And it doesn't mean like, oh, take 6 months off, because actually we still need you to be a contributor to keep the, you know, system running. But with notice and permission from your supervisor, whether it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks throughout the year, if you're being a great contributor, we want you to be taking that time as long as the structure of what we do doesn't get adversely compromised. So it's not like, oh, well, you get 3 days off after having been here 6 months. We just don't roll like that. And we trust people and we trust their supervisors to put together a good plan where everybody can get their needs met personally and professionally. That's an investment in our people. We have another program which is called Leaders or Readers. And going back to this idea that we are the stewards, like we're holding the container for people's big part of their life. We want people to feel like they can grow at Steelhead. So we arrange a lot of trainings for people to become the highest and best version of themselves personally and professionally. So we pay for coaches to come in. Lisa Chastain happens to be like our money coach, and she has worked with my team for probably 6 years now. And she comes in and does one-on-one coaching. She does group trainings, because when people's finances feel in order, they're more relaxed and more capable of like doing great work. And that's like one out of many. We have a massage therapist that comes every month, and we have slots open for everybody to get a 15-minute massage. We have like a snack happy area so that if people need a little pick me up with an orange or a banana, like they can go get some food. Yeah.
You can tell why people love working for you, because it's not just the parties obviously are great, but you're also investing in their soul, in their knowledge, in their ability to grow either within your company or maybe it's outside of it. And something like, especially this work that Lisa does, it doesn't just affect your work, right? Like that training, that especially the stuff that she does, is going to affect their children, their spouses. It goes farther than just them.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll be really honest, because the people, I say management, but that's not the right word, but it's the curating of an environment that feels good to humans is a lot of work, because everybody's so different. And so what we do and how we offer it, it's always evolving. And it should, because people are evolving. Our employees are evolving. They're growing, or new people are coming in, and the dynamic of what feels supportive, it's always shifting. And so it's one of the greatest opportunities that we have as like a leadership team at Steelhead, is just making sure we're creating an environment that feels good for how everybody's showing up in the moment.
Yeah, being curious about what's actually going on from all different levels.
Yeah, and it's a lot. Like the bigger that you get, it's really wily to like keep a pulse on it constantly.
Yeah, lots of different personalities, lots of different needs.
Yeah.
How do you go about your hiring process? Because I assume you have certain values, as you've mentioned, that you want in your employees. How do you go about finding these incredible people that work for you?
Yeah, we put so bringing people into our culture, they're making a commitment to us and we're making a commitment to them. So it's definitely like we invite like a two-way street kind of interview. And I would recommend to like anybody who's out there looking for a job, recognize that you are also picking a place and people you're making a commitment to. So to like take that choice very seriously. But yeah, so we use our HR department to place ads, and our ads are written in a way that communicate we're a values-based organization. So like optimism is important, drive is important, good time management is important. And so we work to make sure that resonates. So it's not just like, you must know how to use Excel. We weave in the personality part too. And we have a couple different layers of interviews. So, first it's kind of like a meet and greet, like just is there kind of an energetic, a good energetic exchange, and that's usually vetted by like our HR. And it's like, okay, this person has the skills and seems to have the right personality, and then they will be interviewed again by the leader who needs whatever function done, and also someone else will come in and ask a couple culture questions. And it's more about not just what you do, but how do you show up as a human being? Like, how do you have fun? What do you do to relax? Like, what kind of music do you listen to? And just kind of see if there's a good fit. And it works well more often than it doesn't. There are also people who aren't looking for what we offer, how we offer it. And that's okay too. And like, no harm, no foul. I hope that you go find a place where your heart is happy.
Yeah. I love that you say that, because it's so true.
Yeah.
We're not for everybody, and that's okay.
And that's okay. It's like more than okay.
Yeah. And people need to recognize that and be like, this isn't the job for me. This isn't the company for me.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about you as a leader and your evolution and your in-betweens, because this is the in-between podcast.
Yeah.
And I know that you've gone through a lot of different in-betweens, especially with this business. Obviously, it was your dad's. You bought him out, and you also did not start in Las Vegas. You guys had a transition where, from my knowledge, you basically took the business, everything, your son, and you were out here alone basically building it. Could you go through that in between and like what gave you the persistence and the grit and the resilience to continue going, especially during the recession?
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. So to start it off, so in about 2006, my now business partner and he was the general manager and I was managing all the marketing. We had this great idea. We were located in the Pacific Northwest. We had this great idea. Let's go to Vegas. Vegas is where, the rubber meets the road in terms of events.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. But also, it's not like if you build it, they will come. And being two young not ever having been entrepreneurs before with this great idea, we were very fearless in the pursuit of what we thought was going to come easy. And I remember so specifically, my dad looked at both of us and said, "Wow, that's a really great idea. You guys do it and buy me out, and you can take this show on the road." And we had so much gusto, so we did. And we came to Vegas and signed all of the leases in 2007. And for those of you who are old enough, and you may not remember so specifically,
Yeah.
but in about 2008, 9, and 10, it was a very difficult time for corporate America, the big housing crisis. I mean, it was hard on business. And unfortunately, we are a marketing company. We service the marketing function for big businesses. Well, one of the first budgets to get cut during difficult, financial times is the marketing budget. So we bought the business and it was probably around 4 million in revenue. We moved to Vegas in 2007, 8, thinking we're going to do 8 million in 2008. And we did 2.3. So we actually had all of this infrastructure that we had signed our names to, and that we lost almost half revenue in our first couple years. It was very difficult. I'd like to say that it was like a boxer in the ring who's about to get KO'd.
Yep.
And that's how it felt, dizzying, it was wild. It was crazy. And at the time I was 32. I knew nothing but good times. And this was the opposite of that. And so it was very hard. Yeah.
That whole story, when I was listening to it, I was like, obviously it's so cool to see where you are today, right? If only it could work out like that every time. We're now I'm viewing your whole life story from a perspective of oh, but she made it. And they're hopefully on track to do 30 million this coming year. But what did you tell yourself? What were the conversations on a personal level that you were telling yourself? Because obviously you're in that situation. There's the business, you have employees, but you also are a young mom. Mm-hmm. You just moved to a new city. You're trying to make ends meet personally while also not giving up on this dream.
Yeah. It was petrifying. It was really scary because I was watching everything that I had built literally crumble. And I remember so specifically, I went to my business partner and I'm when do we call it? When do we say enough is enough? And he looked at me and he's like, when we get locked out of our own building. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, that would for sure be a sign. So it was one of those fuck it, let's do it. And I think back to the different moments and just to choose to go on until the sign is very clear that this is the end of the road. And that's personal and really deep and unique for everybody's individual circumstances. And so, being really tuned in to what your heart is telling you, do you have any more to give? Because that's what I was asking. How much more do we have to give? Mm-hmm. And how much more do I have to give? And when he invited me into, we give it until we can't give it anymore. And it's really just kind of been a driver through a lot of difficulty, personally and professionally. Mm-hmm. It's know when you need to walk away and really ask yourself, am I ready? Am I ready to go? And sometimes the answer is yes. Yeah. And sometimes the answer is no.
It requires you to be in tune with yourself, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
How has the masculine and feminine role played out in business and in life? Because you're co-owner of this company. You're in a very large leadership role, running all of these different big meetings with very large organizations. Yeah. How do you balance that?
Not well.
Same. That's why I'm asking the question.
It's definitely, I'll rewind a bit and I'll just say I have been, and so thankfully, very rewarded for being in my masculine in corporate America. It's much more, I don't want to say acceptable, but it's big business and success in kind of the corporate world specifically. The template is masculine. And I was raised by a man, so getting into my masculine wasn't difficult for me. I didn't have a great role model around the feminine, so I just knew more day to day how to just get into the masculine, but then to have that rewarded, to build the business, to grow, to receive the accolades, and then to wake up as a 42-year-old woman and recognize, like, oh man, I have bulldozed my way, not gracefully with alignment and femininity and attraction, but I have like blood, sweat, and tears my way, and I have overridden so much about the feminine side of myself. There was a big there was a big realization, like in my early 40s, that there was a part of me that I hadn't nurtured, and I was starting to long for it. I was really starting to want it because it just hadn't been cared for. And so I had to lean into it and really give it a lot of love to like resuscitate it.
Well, and even just to learn, like you had mentioned, right? You never saw it.
Yeah.
And so to find women in your life that emulated that as a visual.
Right.
And then it's like obviously uncomfortable because I mean, I see people who lead very much out of their feminine as someone who leans more into her masculine. I'm like, how do you do that? Or like, what are you talking about? Like,
yeah.
Do the task, do it in the best, most efficient way. And it's so interesting because, you know, and Lisa always says that there's this shift going on right now to more of a feminine side of leadership.
Right.
But it's so strange because, I mean, I can't even picture it. Like, I see certain leaders leading from that feminine energy. But at the same time, I feel like your happiness, your joy came from your feminine in a way, right? Yeah. Like you took all of this strength and building and blood and sweat and tears, and you were like, yeah, but we're still going to give back. Yeah, but we're still going to make sure everyone's enjoying what they're doing.
Right.
And that masculine energy doesn't feed that necessarily.
You know, it's interesting because it's all on a spectrum. And I believe that great things require both. And thank you for acknowledging, because yes, I think I overrode my feminine and really was heavily my masculine, which I was, but yeah, there was paying homage in some regards. And now, you know, being a bit, I don't know, more experienced, I really see that there's a place for both. And I'm excited for what that looks like. Yeah.
What was your journey like in healing that side of you and allowing it to become brother? I'm sure that's not the easiest thing to do.
No, but, you know, I really chose sisterhood, and I leaned into women who were doing life differently than me personally. And professionally, I really sought out women who were doing big things and seeing how they were showing up as women in big business. And so it was kind of like this dance, like being surrounded by like sisterhood and women who just naturally like embodied a lot of femininity, and learning from them, like being open and asking questions and getting coaches. And it helped kind of crack that part of me open. It demonstrated to me like, wow, it's possible. And then seeing other women, that was a really big aha in big business. And it's cool, you know?
It's
and
so cool.
They're bad bitches too, you know? So they really lean into their masculine. They kind of have to, you know, it's required sometimes. And then seeing how they softened. So I learned a lot from them as well.
I love how you said it was a spectrum, because I think of it as like a dance, right? Like there are, I mean, especially at the caliber that you're at, there are times you have to be in that masculine energy to the benefit of the company, to the benefit of your employees. But that doesn't mean we're never in the feminine, right? And there's a time and there's a place for that, even on the side if you're a male, right? Like there's a time and place for that. I know you have a daughter. How has this transition of really learning about your feminine side maybe switch things on how you're raising her, the conversations you're having versus your son?
Well, I grew up with my son because I was like 24 when I had him. So he and I, we grew up together, and we're buddies now, and we're friends. And mothering him was very different because I had my daughter. Because I had my daughter, I was 40. I was a bit of a like late mom, an older mom with her. And I so remember, I don't even know if I've really told this story to very many people, so I'm like giving you like little piece. But I remember giving birth to her, and I had a C-section. She didn't want to she didn't want to come out into the world, so I had to evict her. So I had a C-section, and it was like on a Thursday, and I was back in the office on Tuesday.
Wow.
And, C-section, and that's like an intense major surgery, and I remember people, what are you doing back here? Like I just didn't know any different. I didn't know any better. And I look at that version of myself now with having learned about grace and motherhood and femininity and all these other things. And I think, I feel for that, 40-year-old who was just like with my laptop and stilettos everywhere, And so another memory I have with my daughter was when, she was about 1.5, and I was grinding through, and I was on boards, and I was chairing this and running this business, and I was just in all of the things. And I really felt as if like I had finally made it. But I was leaving her at home. I was leaving at 7 a.m. and coming home at 7 p.m. And I was not spending a lot of time with her. And it just hit me realizing self-reflection is important. And this isn't working for me. And I just proceeded to step out of a lot of roles that at one point I had been so excited to be invited into, but it just wasn't as important as being her mom. I just didn't know to do that with my son. I was in just such a different, prove everything to the whole entire universe mode. And mothering her, it was much more what's good for she and I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I was in position to be the chair of a really big nonprofit. I was a co-chair, and I had been the co-chair for a couple years. And I'm this guy is getting ready to step to the side, and I'm going to be
my turn.
It's my turn. And it was right before that happened that I stepped away from. I'm still involved with that nonprofit, but just not on that level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is sometimes the hardest decision. And I mean, we focus on female founders on this podcast, and every single time I interview someone who's a mom, they're if I ask them their greatest in between, it deals with that conversation of this little human's come into my life and everything changed. And I assumed I wouldn't change because I'm Superwoman, but actually, everything changed.
Amen.
How has your version of success evolved over the years?
Yeah, I think, so much of what I thought success would be about was monetary. When I can buy the house, when I can have the things, and when I can go on the vacations, and achieving those things. And so thankfully, right, that's been a part of my story, and still not feeling full. You recognize that's it's not all it, it's not all it's cracked up to be. And you can look around and be so in awe of the things that people have, but their heart and their soul and their bodies a lot of times aren't tended to. And so, kind of as part of my evolution, I started looking at my life from a real 365-degree perspective, all aspects, how's my health, how's my physical body? Because without this, I believe there's nothing. How are my friendships with my girlfriends? Yeah, how's my business? How's my checking account? How are my children? How are their hearts? How are their connections to me? And so I just started to look at things from a much more holistic perspective and realize I don't want one area of my life to be massively successful and a few other things suffer. To me, that's not success. To me, success is when I can look at all of the things that call my attention and I can be proud of how I'm showing up.
Wow. Yeah. That is probably the best answer I've ever heard to that question. No, truly. Because I think sometimes the answer is oh, well, it was money and now it's my kids, or now. It tends to be, from my answers I've heard, one thing. But it's so true. It isn't one thing.
No,
because at the end of the day, your business can be doing really well and your stuff is shit at home. And balance doesn't exist, right? But if we can be constantly checking in on all these things, and I just feel holistically is the way to go, because you feel that, to me, feels powerful almost in a sense, right? Because not that you have that control, but it's one thing isn't overpowering the other. You don't feel that stretch of oh my gosh, this is this, I need to be successful here, and this is version of success. It's everything.
It really is.
At a
Yeah.
glance.
And if the monetary needs to kind of come down, the striving needs to, the energy given to it needs to kind of come in so that everything can be in an equilibrium. Because it is a dance, you know.
Yep.
It's just figuring out how to play it in a way that, like, you go to bed at night and you're like, oh, I'm so proud of this whole entire life.
Yeah. And I mean, that's such a good point. I think entrepreneurs often are so focused on the monetary, and they're like, this was a bad month, so I'm not successful. Or I didn't make this that I made last year, and that means I'm not successful. And it's like a constant redefining.
Yeah.
And if it's not just on the monetary side of things, it doesn't mean you're not successful, because you have all these other things to be proud of.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think that's such an important thing to pay attention to, because really, honestly, my story, I mean, if people could just see the ins and outs of the years, the money comes and goes. And there are years where you're just like, yes, this is everything. And then COVID. And it's like, what do I have to rest on? I have to rest on my friendships and my relationship with my kids and a lot of other things.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, you know, your health as well. Like, truly, money does come and go, and you can find out how to make money, but you can't go back on years and years of taking care of your body like crap, right? You can't go back on, I mean, even years and years of not taking care of a relationship. Like, those are long wounds that take longer than we could go find money tomorrow, you know?
You can hustle that together, but like repairing a relationship, usually
that takes time,
with a hustle.
And you have to cultivate it and put the effort in, and people want to feel seen and heard from you.
For sure. Yeah.
What advice would you give someone who is in the middle of an in-between in their life or their business?
I loved that you kind of teed this up and gave me the ability to think about it, because I went back to, what have I done during my in-between? And, you know, I look back at COVID, and that was a really long
in-between.
It was a long in-between for me. My business shut down. Like, we were completely closed, and we went from over 100 employees to 7. Like, overnight. It was really difficult. And I was there, like, with a lot of spaciousness and a lot of elbow room in this in-between. And I learned all sorts of stuff. I just took the time to teach myself to keep my brain active. And I look back, and it's like some of my most cherished memories come from the opportunity I just gifted myself to, like, learn new things and read a bunch of books. And it was awesome. And then in the kind of coming out of the in-between, I was like so well equipped. I'm like ready to bust through this wall. But, you know, funny things, like I tried to teach myself how to trade options. That didn't turn out so well. I taught myself about crypto. That turned out well for me, you know. And so I just took the time to learn a lot of different things. I learned a lot about, like, digital marketing, because that was the only way at the time that we could keep our brand alive. And I just went all in on information. Very specifically, I think right now, if somebody's like watching and they're like in an in-between, my advice as a business owner is to learn the fundamentals of AI. It's transforming business. It's my most tangible, like, offering to your audience. And I believe it with, like, every iota of my body to lean into whatever arena of business that you're looking to get into, but learn how AI is impacting. And if you don't have the thing yet, learn about the fundamentals.
That is such wise advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. I feel like this flew by because I just had so many things I wanted to chat with you. I know. I'm like, we need to get coffee after this. I would love for everyone to know where to follow you, also about your incredible business and where they can see the smiley face, which I just saw you had some news about the smiley face a couple days ago.
Vegas mystery. So, Steelhead, you can find us, Steelhead Productions, on LinkedIn, or exhibithappy.com is our website. We have a lot of open positions right now. So if anybody is in between and they think they can offer something awesome to my company, please apply. And then for me personally, like, I really love LinkedIn professionally. So Rhiannon Andersen, and then also on Instagram. So Rhiannon-Andersen. And so that's how to get a hold of me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we will make sure to include all that in the show notes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening or watching to the In Between podcast. And make sure to follow us at In Between Combos on Instagram. We'll catch you next time.